On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, how every member of the Thunder can get better and your mailbag questions.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, media member and beat writer for Thunder on SI, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, we're diving into how every player on the Thunder roster can get better this season and your mailbag questions, which range from everything from non-Thunder stuff to the NBA Cup and so much more. We'll dive into all of that coming up on today's show, brought to you by Monarch Money. Go check out Monarch Money today. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at Monarch Money for half off your first year. I just think that when you're looking at this Thunder team, it's not kind of referred to enough by the national media. Of course, locally, things are different. And within the Thunder community, things are different. But it's not referred to enough just how much this team can still ascend, just how much this team can still mature and grow and develop. When you look at this last playoff run, which ended in the team's first championship, and so it ends with confetti and champagne and this kind of not complacency, but just the feeling of being on top, that you look back on this run and it's really improbable in the sense of how it happened. It is one that I think some people don't realize does show how dominant that they are in the sense of they ran through the regular season, and in the playoffs, a team that shot this amount from three should not have won a championship in the modern era. A team that gave away at least 2 games, just flat out gave them away like a George Strait song, should not have won the NBA title. A team that got as stagnant as they did at times in the half court offensively should not have won the NBA title. But why did they? Because they have an embarrassment of riches in terms of quality of players, in terms of an elite, historically great defensive unit that really carried them. And I say that not as a knock on the Thunder's title run, but as something to rise up the possibility of them repeating as champions. Because if you replay a playoff right now, how likely is it that the Thunder are the 13th out of 16th team shooting from three? I think it's pretty unlikely. I think that at some point things level out. It's why you have the percentages and the averages that you do. So if their 3-point shooting was better, you look at this run. Chet Holmgren was excellent defensively. He wasn't excellent offensively, but he also was coming off of a hip fracture. To where like Chet, I think is for sure going to be better than he was in the postseason, this postseason. So I think that it's important to discuss in broad strokes how the Thunder can still get better from here, even though that on paper right now, in the way that they're being previewed and talked about is just, well, they ran it back to the champs. Let's move on. Like, yeah, they did run it back. They are the champs, but they're not a move on team. They're a growing team. And when you look at the Thunder's roster that start at the top with SGA, like SGA every single year comes back a better player than he was before. And at some point, he has to level off like every player does. But at age 27, is he going to level off? And to me, his one area of improvement this summer is twofold. I think that you either need him to be another step forward as a playmaker, because he did make that improvement a year ago where he became a really good playmaker and a really good option on the ball of reading what the defense was giving him as a passer. He improved in that area, but he has another leap to go if he invests in playmaking over time. And as this roster gets more flushed out around him in the sense of like Chet's development as a 3-point shooter, that can raise the tides of his assist numbers and his playmaking chops, etc. But it's either another step up from a playmaking aspect, or what I think is more appealing, because I think that this level of playmaker obviously is good enough to win a championship. They just did it, and he just had a historic season. What I think is interesting is what does it look like as a step up for Shai from the 3-point line? Like if he gets really comfortable shooting off the dribble from three, where does that take you? And I think that it completely transcends an offense that was already really good. But when you're talking about those slowed down moments in the postseason and the half court offense, if he can truly pull up off the dribble at all three levels, man, I mean, this is unguardable stuff. So Shai's developmental track is obviously like just a cherry on top, because if he just flatlined from here, he would be a good enough number one option to win a title, clearly. With Isaiah Hartenstein, to me, the 3-point stuff is not real, honestly. You watch him work on it after every practice, but it's just not something that I don't think that they're truly going to incorporate into his game. I think that where he can improve from a year ago is just the push shot falling more often in the postseason as it did in the regular season. But truly, with iHeart, he was kind of perfect in his role, and there's some areas where you can expect a step forward from these guys. But the one place that I really want to see the Thunder utilize him just a tick more is whenever you do have your main guys on the court, like Shai, like J-Dub, like Chet, still running the entire offense through iHeart at times. Because I do think that Shai and J-Dub are excellent isolation scorers, but they also can finish around iHeart as well. With Lou Dort, I mean, the rim finishing is always what you're going to point to with Lou. But at some point, you have to believe that he's just not going to do it, because where Lou's improved as an efficient player is he's cut out the wild shots, he's cut out the wacky drives, but he hasn't truly improved his efficiency at the rim in terms of finishing. It's been in terms of shot diet. But if he ever could, like, that'd be a great thing for Lou. And that's like the one thing that his game is missing, is like a consistency at the rim scoring the basketball. For Alex Caruso, there's really nothing, because he played his role perfectly similarly to iHeart. What if he shoots the ball better from three in the playoffs, in the sense of like takes another leap? I'm not saying he was bad in the playoffs from three, but just what if like he was awesome from three? There's not really much to talk about with Alex Caruso. I'm not going to make up something for Caruso. But with Chet, you get into another interesting option. With Chet Holmgren, I think his defense is perfect. I think that his defense is top 3 in the NBA already, and that's why, as we submit our top 100 players today for Locked On, iHeart comes in. iHeart comes in on the list, but Chet comes in really high because of how good his defense is, and because on offense you can foresee where he will go as a player, but he's got to actually do it. He's got to actually make that step. So this season, I think if he can lock down that 3-point shot, that one change will in turn open up plenty for him, will in turn open up the ability to score at the rim, to get downhill, to get to the free throw line, to open up his mid-range whenever guys are closing out hard to him. He takes one dribble and knocks down a mid-range jumper that's wide open because of how hard you had to close out to him. So with Chet, I think it's all about the three. And also just functionality-wise, if you can have Chet be a elite trailing 3-point shooter, that changes how your offense can look if you get stopped in transition for a team that you expect and know will be out in transition a lot because of the volume of turnovers that they create and the havoc that they cause on defense, and also just the speed on the floor where they can create artificial transition opportunities with inbounding the ball quickly once it gets through the bucket for the other team. So I just think that his trailing threes, his catch and shoot threes, it's all the most important piece of the puzzle because of the ripple effects that it has. Whereas like we all look back to Chet, and I do it too, look back to Chet before the hip injury last season, where he legitimately was an all-star. He legitimately was playing at that level. 9 games, I know, small sample size, but he was doing things off the catch. He was getting to the free throw line at a high clip. And in those 9 games, he looked awesome. I think that the way you get back to that is by being awesome from three. So let's start with the one thing for Chet being his 3-point shooting, which allows him to get to the more, not important, but more unicorn stuff whenever you're trying to envision Chet as this unicorn awesome top 25 player in the NBA. So I think that with Chet, you're going to look at the 3-point shooting. Coming up, let's talk J-Dub. Let's talk the rest of this rotation and so much more. But first, I want to say right now, my good friends over at 5 Hour Energy, go check out 5 Hour Energy today because it's awesome. You want to fuel up with 5 Hour Energy transfusions. It brings the bold grape, ginger, lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you are sinking birdies or just need some extra boost to get you through the day, this is a hole-in-one of your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or even in the office, you need a little extra shot of energy that keeps you sharp and energized, and that's where the Take 5 transfusion can come in. Make sure you go check it out today because golf is all about good times with good people, with good flavors, of course. The grape, ginger, lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. Check it out today because if you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONGolf to receive 20% off your order. This order is only valid through September 30th, and it's on one order and cannot be used with other promotions or on subscription orders. Just one order at the number 5hourenergy.com. Use promo code LOCKEDONGolf to receive 20% off of your first order. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get energized with this boost that you need to power through. Order the transfusion-flavored 5 Hour Energy shot today. We're back on the Lockdown Thunder podcast on the Lockdown Podcast Network, your teams every day, going through the list of Thunder players and how they can improve. Let's go with Isaiah Joe. I've talked about Isaiah Joe a lot this summer. I still believe in Isaiah Joe. Perhaps I shouldn't. I'll admit that on the front end. Of all the takes that I have, I believe in them, but there's clearly a scale of how much I believe in them. This is one where I could legitimately see myself being wrong on. Like Chet Holmgren, for example. Buying all of his stock and hyping him up, if you will, to use a layman's terms, hyping him up as this future unicorn, excellent player that can help this Thunder offense and be a top 3 defender. I 110% believe in that. I'd be shocked if that didn't come true. With Isaiah Joe, my belief in him is just based upon the things you hear, the things you see about Joe. Because he's a good 3-point shooter. There's no question about it. He is a good 3-point shooter. And they tried last year to change the ways that he was receiving those 3-point shots, and they did change it. They changed it pretty substantially, and as a matter of fact, like it did hurt his percentages a little bit, especially early on in the year, him playing off of Isaiah Hartenstein. But I just think that for a guy this talented from beyond the arc, year 2 is when it's going to click for him in terms of the pairing with iHeart and the system changes. So you go back to the year in which the Thunder lost to Dallas in the playoffs. He was a good 3-point shooter back then, but all of his threes were stationary catch and shoot threes. And in the playoffs, those get really taken away as teams play a more intense style of defense. They're connected on a string more. And the deeper in the playoffs that you go, of course, the better the defenses get, the harder they close out, the more effective they are in those closeouts. And it just takes away a stationary, hey, let's drive, let's kick, let's drive, let's kick offense. And that's how Dallas really dismantled OKC in their offense at times in that series. And that's why Sam Presti at the end of that series mentioned that you win with the pass and not the dribble in the playoffs. And so this season rolls around and you're seeing Isaiah Joe get more opportunities as a guy coming off screens on the catch and shoot and being a movement shooter. It still didn't bear any fruit come playoff time. And I think that another opportunity in that system, with as good of a 3-point shooter as Isaiah Joe is, I think that you'll see it start to click for him. You'll see it start to click for the table setters on this roster. It's not just Isaiah Joe. It's mainly Isaiah Joe, but you also have to have the right guys on the ball who can find that opportunity and are comfortable in making that pass, whipping it across the court. If they're isolating on the left wing, whipping it to the right wing after he comes off of a pin down screen and curls out off the screen for a catch and shoot 3. I think that everyone involved will be more comfortable in that setting this season for Oklahoma City, and thus creates a better opportunity for Isaiah Joe. And this is one that needs to happen, and you need to figure out early. Like, I think that early on, this offense should feature a lot of Isaiah Joe, because by the trade deadline, you're going to have to know, do you have that go-to shooter or not? Because this team did lack shooting. We talked about it. Their 3-point shooting numbers were dreadful in the playoffs last year, and they should not have won a title based on 3-point percentage alone, but they did. And so at the trade deadline, To me, you can't let that get you complacent that you're able to do it once without 3-point shooting. You can't bank on that being a repeatable recipe to just not shoot the ball well and still win. You just can't bank on that. Even for as good as the Thunder are, even for as great as their defense is, you have to get some form of a legitimate shooter, and you have to figure out, does that happen internally with growth to Isaiah Joe, or does that need to happen externally? And I think that Isaiah Joe's development is important, and the quality of threes that he gets is important, and the type of threes that he gets is important. And I think that it'll all come together for him, but he's got to be more comfortable just relocating as a shooter, flying all around the court off the ball until he gets the ball thrown to him and just launching that three instead of overthinking it and getting the pass out to him. And now he's wondering, is this the time where I drive? Is this the time where I make the extra pass? Is this the time where I shoot? It's just you reprogram him into being this guy that immediately fires from three as the first instinct, and then he can work on those other things lower on the list, like lower on the priority list for Isaiah Joe. So that's kind of where I'm at with Joe. With Wiggins, the one thing to develop on is, of course, defending bigger bodies. Like, I appreciate whenever I asked Wiggins about this last season, about scaling up defensively, and he was very honest. I mean, most of the time, like, it's no slight to anyone. Most of the time, you get a canned answer, just like, "Oh yeah, that's what we do." Wiggins was very honest that like he's uncomfortable defending bigger wings and forwards, and that's his role for the Thunder. Like, that's not going to change. The Thunder have not done anything identity-wise with this roster that will change that for Wiggins. So, to me, the biggest switch for him in terms of if you're trying to figure out, if you're a big Wiggins fan and you're trying to figure out how can he play a bigger role in the playoffs, if he can become a guy who is comfortable defending forwards, then he can stay on the floor because he is your third best shot creator. He's your third best guy who can go create himself a bucket and can go isolate and score. And that becomes ever so valuable for a team that, again, in the playoffs had some lulls in their half-court offense. So having a guy who can go create his own shot is big, but he's got to be able to stay on the floor defensively, and Wiggins has to take that step forward on the defensive end. For J. Will, this is an interesting one. I acknowledge that J. Will's gotten better. And he's actually gotten better in an area that we usually, if we're, for armchair evaluators, we usually say isn't something that you can just fix, which is his athleticism. He's gotten way more athletic. And Sam Presti has noted that. Mark has noted that. He's gotten way more athletic than he was when he first started in OKC. So that's good. I think last year he was a better defender than he gets credit for. There's an element of the Thunder being so good defensively that it overly punishes guys who aren't at an elite level because you're so used to seeing elite level defense that when you see someone who's not elite, you think that they're bad. I think that J. Will had his best defensive season last year. And I think that in the pick and roll for his job, he did, like, if you really break down the pick and roll coverage, which is what most people have a problem with. If you really break down J. Will in the pick and roll, they were putting him in drop. He was having to defend the big, and oftentimes it was a lapse on the actual screen that was set, the guard not fighting through as crisp as they should, and he gets caught in between. And I don't count that as against J. Will, and I don't really view that as a net negative just because Chet's so good he can defend too, right? And he can defend in between those two guys. I think that J. Will did his job really well defensively, and nobody did against Jokic in the playoffs. That was an exceptional job from J. Will, and he gained confidence, and he understood the leverage point and how to utilize his frame better to stand guys up and wall guys off at the rim. He did a better job of competing at the rim and not just going for charges outright. And he competed at the rim without fouling a lot. And that's a big deal to me for J. Will, all things considered. So if you can continue to refine that defense and take another step forward, kind of doubling down on the step forward that he took defensively, then you unlock this player who's undoubtedly the best third string center in the league. If he can double down on the defensive improvement, because offensively, he is what he is. And what he is a player who has more skill set traits than any other third string center in the league. Who can knock down threes when he's left open, who can create opportunities for you with the pass as a high post playmaking hub. And at his size, I'm never going to hold him to the standard of being a top tier rim finisher. And I don't think it's realistic to say his one thing is to become a lob threat. It's like, okay, well, he's 6'6". How's he going to do that? Like, how is he going to become a lob threat? But he realistically can continue to refine his technique defensively and become a better defender because he's became an athlete capable of defending on that end. For Kenrich Williams, like I'm not going to act like there's something massive for Kenny Hustle to improve on. Kenrich Williams is, I think, one of the very few players who has tapped out in terms of development for the Thunder, and he's just what he is, which is a good player. I mean, he's a scrappy, hard-nosed defender and scrappy, hard-nosed rebounder, and he's a nice, average play finisher. And it's just what he is, and it's fine, and he plays his role very well. There's nothing really there for Kenrich to improve on. Like he is just a star in his role, and that's what you need to do if you're in his spot on the roster. So we'll move on now to the rookies. What we want to see them improve from their prospect film. We'll talk about J-Dub and Oos. We'll talk about AJ Mitchell and so much more. But first, I want to say right now, our good friends over at Monarch Money, go check out Monarch Money today, because if you ever wish that managing your money felt easier, with Monarch Money it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO that gives you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to just managing your money, you're also building your wealth. Make sure you check them out today, because I love the fact that they have an all-in-one convenience app. Everything's out in front of you to track your spending and investments, etc. But I also love the feature where they check all your subscriptions for you. They make sure that, like, hey, are you really using the subscription? You really need this? You get to see it all in front of you. Because we all know that, like, subscriptions, they take it out at different times, and you can lose track of how many that they are. I've lost track of plenty of subscriptions. I told the story yesterday that I have, at one point in my life, paid for Spotify and Apple Music at the same time. That's just silly. And so Monarch Money helped me control that spending. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com. 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNBA for half off of your first year. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day, here talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder. Let's go to Ousmane Dieng now. We've had plenty of conversations. Like, it's surprisingly enough, I think that if you go back and listen to Locked On Thunder once Summer League began and once we get to this point, so obviously post parade, post draft, post free agency, I think that Oos has been the biggest talking point on Locked On Thunder because of our mailbags and because of our roster rankings and things like that. So you kind of know my feelings on Oos. I will reiterate it though real quickly, because I'm not going to be so egotistical to think that you've listened to every episode, although I hope that you will. He has to improve his physicality / force. Because, man, he is a NBA level defender. Today he can be in a lot of rotations. I think that he can be in all 30 rotations as a defender. But where he struggles is he's got to be able to mix it up and get more rebounds, just as a pure want to, of like a long carom here, hey, let's put a body on somebody on the low block there. With his size and his frame, he should be able to mix it up more. And then the layups, man, the layups just kill him. Because he's not an excellent three-point shooter, but if he was a knockdown layup shooter, then the three-point stuff doesn't hinder him a ton, because he at least makes 36% of them off the catch with unguarded catch and shoot threes. He's around 38% at that point. So it's like he makes enough unguarded catch and shoot threes, which is the shot quality that whenever he's playing with a fully healthy Thunder roster, that's the shots he's going to get. You're just not going to guard Oos. It is what it is. But at the rim, the layups kill him. Defensively, he's there. But can he get more forceful? Can he get more aggressive and more intentional with his movements on the court? Because there's sometimes he's still just floating around. His movements aren't as crisp. He's not getting to his spots the way that he should. He's just kind of wanting to stay out of the way a little bit. He's got to want to just dive head first into the action. And I think that that's something that he can unlock, especially this summer. I mean, this summer playing with Eurobasket is going to be big for him. Playing around grown men and NBA players and competing against NBA players, it'll be another opportunity for him to get some real run, even if it's just exhibition play, like just some real run for Ousmane Dieng. J-Dub, man, I mean, he's an awesome player. And I think that the development is a loose term for J-Dub because it's more of a continuation. What did we talk about after Game 6 against Denver? Game 6 against Denver, we talked about how the box score was awful, but why was it awful? It was awful because he was not as forceful around the rim. He did not utilize his frame properly and understand who he is as a player. And that the decisions weren't even necessarily bad. It was just, hey, you got to the rim and you decided, and you couldn't finish. You couldn't explode up at the cup and finish over defenders. From that point forward, he was a completely different player, even with a torn ligament in his wrist. You have never seen that level of aggression from J-Dub. You had never seen that level of ownership of the offense. You had never seen that level of physicality consistently from J-Dub as you did from Game 7 on in that playoff run. And if he can continue to be the guy who understands his body, understands that he can just simply overpower guys at his size, like he's just that good. He's that good, and he can command the court the way he did. Like then you go from a third All-NBA player to a second-team All-NBA player, and you go from an All-Star to an All-Star starting-ish player and like a lock for the All-Star rather than a fringe All-Star. Like you just continue to move up the pantheon of players. And J-Dub just simply repeating what he did from Game 7 on against Denver, where he's commanding all three spots on the floor, where he's knocking down catch and shoot threes, or at least making himself available for them and finding the passing windows, where he is off the dribble, getting to the elbow, bumping a guy off like Shai does and hitting a mid-range jumper, and he's forcefully getting to the rim on and off the ball. Like if he can just continue to do that at a high level and removing that wrist injury where he improves his three-point percentage, then like that's going to be where his bread is buttered. And so I guess if you have to watch one stat, it would be the three-point percentage, just because how much is real and not real. He's still a very young player. We don't have a ton of sample size to work with, and you almost throw out last year's three-point percentages, especially in the playoffs because of that wrist injury. Where does he actually get back to on the three-point percentage? But I also want to watch the shot attempts and free throw attempts, because he got to the rim more post Game 6 against Denver by being more aggressive. And he needs to continue to get to the rim more and get to the free throw line more by doing that forcefully as he did later on in the playoffs. Cason Wallace, I think it's all about the three-point shooting. Like I'm intrigued still. I'm not giving up at all, but I'm not selling any little piece of Cason stock. But I think that the most important developmental track for Cason Wallace is the three-point shooting. Like the three-point shooting is big time for him. I'm still intrigued by what he can do off the ball, on the ball. I'm still intrigued by what he can do off the catch. But if he can become a 42% three-point shooter with the caliber of defender that he is, oh my gosh, like you're talking about a player who is unbelievable, like who is one of the most valuable in the league. And I think that he can make a bump with that improved percentage to being a 12-point per game scorer and really helping taking the burden off this offense. You go back to the playoffs, for as great as they were, for as awesome as it was to win a championship, if you were shooting 40-something% from three, like you would have just ran away with the whole thing. I mean, it wouldn't have been a contest. It would have looked similar to what Boston's path to a title looked like in 2024. So if you get another guy to develop in that vein, it'll be a big deal. Swarber and Barnhizer, I'm curious on Barnhizer's three-point percentage because of just where's the baseline at compared to where it was as a prospect. And for Swarber, I'm curious how he handles defending actual NBA fives, because I think that that's going to be his role, to defend fives. And what does that look like in his first go-around? We're not going to spend too much time because there's not exactly development, because they haven't really played an NBA game yet, obviously. Now, with AJ Mitchell, there's nothing I want to see him improve, because you really look at what he did at his NBA career. He got to the free throw line the second most on the team whenever he was playing behind Shai. He was an excellent three-point shooter off the ball as a catch-and-shoot option. He was great at the rim. He was a very highly competitive defender who was actually graded out as a really good defender on synergy. Part of that's helped out by the teammate he was flanked by, but still, he was a very competitive defender on that end. I just want to see how much can he grow as a playmaker in the sense of last year. Was he good as a playmaker? Yes. You know that I think that I have very bold takes on AJ Mitchell. My hottest take of the NBA season so far was that he would be a for sure top 8 player in the Thunder rotation by the end of the season. But last year's playmaking involved a lot of just simple reads, simple decisions, and that's okay. You'd rather have simple, good decisions than ones that lead to a ton of turnovers and ones that don't put you anywhere offensively. But is there another step he can take to be a more creator, right? Let the record show. I think he's going to be awesome. But can he create opportunities, or is he just a one-read guy? And being a one-read guy is great. I mean, being a one-read guy is fine. It's like a game manager. But can he now start to develop into a guy who consistently gets to the rim, which he did all of last year, and off of that rim opportunity, he's now just getting to the cup and firing it into the corner out of nowhere for an open three, or getting to the cup, pivoting around, throwing it back up to the top of the key or to the wing to create more offense as the defense collapses around him. And then how does the defenses continue to adjust to him now that he has more of a book on him? We'll be very curious to see as well. And then you get to Brandon Carlson. I think that Brandon Carlson's another guy, perfect player, perfect player for who he is as a two-way option. He just is. He's perfect for a two-way player. If I had to wonder about one thing with Brandon Carlson, it would be, is there anything more to his game off the catch? When he gets around the three-point line, how comfortable can he be putting the ball on the floor at the NBA level, not the G League level, putting the ball on the floor and getting to the cup and finishing? Because I like everything else. I love him as a lob threat off the roll. I love him as a catch and shoot three-point shooter. I really like his rim protection and drop coverage. So, I mean, it's just one thing that you can look at with Brandon Carlson. So we went through the whole roster. That's what you get with Locked On Thunder. We'll answer a couple of your questions. We'll save a lot of them for future shows because, honestly, we got to stretch this stuff out here in August. But first one from Steve McGeehee, my guy, News 9. Shout out to Steve. NBA Cup, should they go for it or go for the days off? I choose the latter. Listen, Steve, you travel with this team the entire season. Every single game you go to like at least 81 of 82 minimum. So it's like, for your sake, Steve, I hope that they take the days off. I hope that they do not have to go to Vegas. But looking at the groups, and I mean, looking at the groups, and I did this on Locked On Thunder and also Thunder NSI. But if you grade the NBA Cup groups, the Thunder are the worst group, and the Thunder have the worst group that they should just thoroughly dominate and like get out of the pool play stage. Then you go into the knockout stage, and then you go into Vegas. So it's like they have, I think, the simplest path to get back to Vegas in the NBA Cup. And this is a question of just, are they going to abandon their 0-0 identity? I don't think so. I think that they're going to stay 0-0. They're going to stay holding a great importance to every single game in the regular season. And by nature of that, they're going to go back to Vegas, I think. I really do. Hippo Tresser says, now that Adam, friend of the pod, Flagler, has sadly departed from the Thunder organization, who has the most potential for the next friend of the pod in the organization? Man, I hope that Flagler has a great career wherever he goes. I hope that the Thunder get him back in some capacity, at least for the Blue. True friend of the pod. He's great. He's awesome. Let's just say that things are in the works. Things are in the works for another friend of the pod. Now, again, it's not new in the sense of replacing. Flagler is forever a friend of the pod. But let's just say things are in the works, I hope, for the next friend of the pod to appear. So I'll leave you with that. And until tomorrow, be good and be good to one another.